In 2018, the band Waco tragically lost their bass player Chris Flip, but given the tragic loss, they decided to carry on the project and have gone on to release 2 more records in his memory. Now, Chris would have been 35 last month, and to commemorate him, the band have released an EP on their Bandcamp page with the money going towards Cruse Bereavement Support charity, a charity which helps people who are going through the loss of a loved one. Now, I caught up with Waco earlier on the phone. This is how it went down.
Flip was a gentle giant, as people have been described in the past. He was a tall guy, very calming energy, would always put people before himself, buy a pizza, and you make sure everyone had a slice of that pizza before he helped himself. He loved Killing Joke, he loved punk music. He was from Coventry, and he was a skateboarder, and that's where he got his nickname Flip years before we met him, actually. And then in the band, he brought creativity, open-mindedness, open-heartedness, and a kind of a quiet, confident, and just a love of music. Like, he was constantly listening to different types of music, pushing his own taste, trying different stuff on his bass. And even though punk was his world, he was constantly challenging himself musically and his taste. So it was a good energy to have in the band.
Right, I bet it was. And how did you first form the band, and how did Flip get involved?
Me and Tom, the guitarist, we met each other at university, and I saw he had a band T-shirt on, an Operation Ivy T-shirt, and I was like, oh, I want to hang out with that guy. And so we started chatting, and then we wanted to find a bass player. And we're both not from London, so we were living in London at the time. And, you know, our circles were small. Yeah. And so to meet people, we went old school. We went to the record shop, All Ages Records, and we looked on the wall, because there's a big wall of flyers and kind of notices. And on there was a notice. Flip had put a notice up there saying, you know, bassist seeks band. And he was not from London either. So, you know, maybe we had a similar spirit, you know, trying to meet people. And weirdly, like, we looked at the bands that he'd referenced and we were into that. But it's quite weird, like, we didn't know the band would be together for that long. You know, we've been together for 10 years now. And Chris was with us for 7 years. And it was kind of like you auditioning a bass player, but really there's a weird, it's a friend, you know, it's a best friend. That's how we met our best friend, through that notice on the wall. And there was someone else that we'd messaged, but we never met up for a practice. So it was quite organic, it was quite old school, you know, a notice on the wall. But maybe we were always meant to meet, and maybe it was some kind of fate, because I can't imagine not knowing him.
That is a very touching and beautiful story, really, and I don't think many people are going to meet in that same fashion these days. I know it's hard to talk about, but when you found out the news about Flip, what conversations did you have around carrying on with the band and the projects that you had in the works?
It was obviously devastating and really sudden and unexpected, and we'd recorded our debut album, which is called Human Magic, and we hadn't released it yet. We'd got it mixed and mastered, and it was you know, we were on the road to releasing it later, you know, the following year. Mm-hmm. And we had things in place, like a little campaign and some music videos planned. And Chris passed away before that debut album came out, which is heartbreaking as well, because he put a lot of himself into it, and he wrote some of the songs. And then, so we were in this weird position where this was our debut album, mm-hmm. and Chris had put so much of himself into it, but we were distraught that we didn't know. Even seeing each other was upsetting, you know, because it brought it all back. And then it something kind of switched. Not switched, but it was conversations that were starting to be had. You know, what do we do with this album? Mm-hmm. What do we physically do with his stuff? You know, he's got a bass guitar and amp in our practice room, and then we thought, well, we have to release the album. It became apparent to us that we have to get the album out there. It felt disrespectful almost to not release it after all the passion and effort we put into it. And Chris put into it. So we were definitely going to release the album. And then we had some gigs booked for the following year. And then a friend came to us, James, who was a friend of Chris's and a friend of ours. And he said, you know, I know you've got gigs booked. And he was upset as well, obviously. And he said, I know you've got gigs booked. And if you did want someone to stand in and play those gigs, you know, to give the album a bit of a to give the album a boost, to give it a really proper release, then James offered to step in and play, which was really touching and kind of brave of him, but also unexpected as well. But that felt organic as well, only because he was part of the same friendship circle, and he knew Chris, like I said, and so he knew how sensitive it was, and so that's how that unfolded. And then we did release the album, and it was emotional. And then we've continued with James in the band, and then we've got another person join the band who's also a friend of Chris's and a friend of ours, which feels, again, it just feels like the right thing to do. Well, I know Chris really well, and the other lads in the band did, and I know that he wouldn't be happy if we stopped the band. So it helped build it with us from his practice room in Holloway Road to playing. We've toured Europe with him. We've really, we've done so many cool things. It feels like he's with us now on this journey, the journey that he started. Yeah. It's sad. I'm getting a bit sad thinking about it, but it's sad, but it also feels like the good way to remember him. And grieving's weird. Grieving's like, it's a strange thing because I feel like sad now. Yeah. As sad as I did, sometimes I feel as sad as I did when it happened, like 3 years ago, and then sometimes I feel like I can remember him and the good times we had, but it's a constant dance between those two things. But really, we actively remember Chris all the time, because every time we get in the van, every time we play the music, when we write songs about him, in this Flip Forever, we say, let's go back to Coventry and let's listen to Killing Joke, and that proper specific things that I know would make him smile. And so it feels like an active type of mourning that hasn't been easy, but it's actually helped to deal with it. Well, and we constantly talk about him, and we get to introduce him to new people. This is important to me. That's it. Like I am to you. Yeah, like I am to you, like I do at all the gigs. This is for Chris, Flip, Cowley, and this is what he was like. And it's kind of like, every time we do that, it feels like we bring him back in a small way, or that we speak to him.
He'll always be alive within the band. You can tell that his spirit's still there with you. And
thank you.
Tell me about Flip Forever EP and how people can go and get themselves a copy.
So the Flip Forever EP is Flip Forever, which is a song written all about Chris, and then. It's not a sad song. We think it's an uplifting song. It's a memorial in all the good times that we had. And then it's 3 songs that he played on that he really loved playing on from our back catalogue. And we chose them wisely because we like ones that meant something to him as well. And the money for that goes to Cruse Bereavement Charity, which offers people an ear, or offers them support and help through going through a bereavement. And that's a great charity, and they do great work, and it just feels like to release Flip Forever and to give something to connect it to other people who are going through bereavement, it feels like the right thing to do. And if people are just getting into the band, Flip Forever is a good place to start, because it's got our brand new song on, but it's also got some of our older stuff that Flip played on, so it's a good introduction. But that's what that's all about.
I absolutely love how Waco are keeping Flip's spirit alive. Chris Flip, he seemed like such an integral part of that friendship group and band. It was such a touching conversation that I had, and I remember playing Flip Forever around the time where I first started, and the song had such an impact on me. And I remember Waco tweeting about it when I was kind of new to radio, and I just knew immediately that I was going to be a fan of this band, just the way that they hold themselves up and the way they're moving with integrity right now. Right, let's play it. This is Waco, Flip Forever. Rest in peace, Flip.